Sunday afternoon, March 12th. You are listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. Heavy snow continues across the upper Midwest as another major winter storm, unbelievable. Another major winter storm moves across the upper Midwest. Sheboygan, Wisconsin saw 13.2 inches of snow yesterday, and the snow continues. Additional snowfall expected today. Winter storm warnings in effect for that area for an additional 4 to 6 inches. Minneapolis, Minnesota, already as of Friday or yesterday was up to 77 inches of snow so far this year. That's well above normal. More snow on the way for that area today. Another winter storm for the ninth, I believe it's the ninth consecutive week, at least the ninth consecutive week, moves across the Midwest again for the end of this week. That one also looks like it's targeting Minneapolis, Minnesota, but it's too early right now to say, so that storm moves again across the upper Midwest, bringing snow on the backside as usual. Really warm temperatures are going to be in the front side, so that's good news for a lot of the Midwest. Especially Thursday, as temperatures go at least into the 60s, but 70s are climatologically speaking. A system like this would be producing 70s for a city like St. Louis, Missouri. 60 degrees in the southern portions of Chicago is not out of the question. In fact, for any portion of Chicago, 60 degrees is not out of the question. 60 degrees will probably occur in the south portions of Chicago. That's for Thursday, along with some thunderstorms. Parts of the rest of this podcast has background music that is a little bit too loud at times. The plan is for this to be fixed sometime later on. You can check back later, or you can listen now. We are dealing with not just a Midwest storm for this week. We're also dealing with another nor'easter. This is either the first or second nor'easter of the year. This storm, the Midwest storm, moves off to the east. But let's speak about the very beginnings of this coastal storm that's going to be happening this week. It actually starts to develop already in the Gulf of Mexico tonight. The northeast portions of the Gulf of Mexico, we have a low pressure system that then pulls up. Some of the models show it going over the state of Georgia. Then it continues off the coast and continues moving north. This storm system rapidly intensifies Monday night and Tuesday. On Tuesday, you just see the thing really rapidly intensifying. This is a coastal storm. A lot of the energy, however, is coming from the Midwest storm. This is already a storm, even though we already have it actually down in the Gulf of Mexico, and we have the storm system right now in Minnesota. As the storm system in Minnesota tracks east, it's going to gradually weaken. The energy from that storm gets transferred over to the coast, and the thing totally bombs out. It's called bombogenesis. That's when it drops 0.71 within a 24-hour period, or 1 MB. We have different computer models forecasting different things, but the 980 MB, probably about 28.9 or so, is what can be expected for the peak of intensity. And the GFS has this thing going down to 970 MB. That's already down to probably 29.83, maybe even lower than that. I don't have the exact 28.83, 28.83. Might even be lower than that. So we have a very strong storm that's expected to develop off the East Coast. Here's the thing in regards to the snow. We do have an ideal setup for snow, an ideal setup. The only problem is it's happening a little bit too late for it to be ideal. We are holding in March. The sun's angle is quite high this time of the year. So, it's going to create a situation where it's difficult for the precipitation to fall as snow. Nonetheless, the precipitation rates are going to be so intense, we're going to rely upon dynamic cooling. Once again, a little bit of evaporative cooling probably in the very beginning, but mostly dynamic cooling combined with the fact we do have cold air pouring out of Canada thanks to a Greenland block, an area of high pressure producing unseasonably warm temperatures in Greenland. Really unusually warm for the Greenland area. We have temperatures going into the 50s over there, and then you have this really cold air that gets pushed down the tunnel into the northeast. And we're going to see those temperatures drop into the 30s. 30s is borderline, as we know, for snow. If it was to all accumulate, we would be talking about very large amounts of snow. However, not all of it's going to accumulate. Some of it's going to melt. Also, even after it accumulates, temperatures in some of these cities are going to be above 32, perhaps for the entire storm. And also, even the snow that does fall, at least for the first half, we're dealing with snow-to-water ratios well under 10-1. So, the usual 1 to 2 feet of snow that would happen in a nor'easter is still likely going to happen, but it is in a much smaller area, probably a real narrow area within the northeast. Perhaps places like in Albany, New York, areas around there could perhaps pull off 1 to 2 feet. This is going to be a water-packed snow. The National Weather Service is expecting power outages if this storm materializes. The New York City is right along, the New York City metropolitan area is right along the rain-snow line. We have winter storm watches in effect for portions of Passaic, New Jersey right now. Winter storm watches are in effect for parts of the New York metropolitan area. 5 to 10 inches of heavy, wet snow can be expected, or at least it's possible right now for the western and northern suburbs of the New York area. Those accumulations go down. The precipitation starts off as rain in New York, but eventually the precipitation will be changing over to snow. So, will there be enough snow to produce a winter storm warning criteria? That's really the question. Places like Boston, Massachusetts, that's really far off to the east. And again, Boston's also right along the line. Baltimore and Philadelphia look to be missing the storm. As of now, they look to be missing the storm. Today, we have winter weather advisories issued by the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. National Weather Service for parts of western Maryland, mostly in the mountain area. This does not include Baltimore. Philadelphia, very little snow. These cities have received less than a half an inch so far this season. That's unbelievable. Philadelphia, by now, usually has seen 20 inches of snow. They've only seen a half an inch of snow. And Washington, D.C. has usually seen a foot by now. And they've also had 2 or 3/10 of an inch so far this season. Baltimore also is somewhere under a half an inch so far this season. So they've seen very little snow. This storm, once again, pretty much misses the coastal cities for the most part. However, the storm is intense enough, we still might be able to pull off a 6-inch snow, especially for the northern and western suburbs of New York. Providence, Rhode Island, you look at the European computer model as advertised on windy.com, you would see some pretty impressive snowfall rates on Tuesday. But you would also see temperatures are above 32 during the entire event. So what actually is going to happen in Providence, that's also a big question mark. Providence is a little bit further west than Boston. It's also a little bit further south. I think there might be a little bit more snow in Providence than in Boston. The storm system today that moves off to the northeast, that system is going to be producing severe weather in Georgia. The storm system that's going to be moving up to the northeast, both of them producing severe weather in Georgia. These two systems combine as we go into Monday night and Tuesday, and they move off the coast and turn into a powerhouse storm of probably 28.8. And we're not through with the storms for this week. We mentioned already another storm moves across the Midwest later this week. That one also brings a chance for severe weather likely to portions of the south central states and then off to the southeastern portions of the United States. Right now, right after this storm leaves the southeastern portions of the United States, unseasonably cold weather moves into places like Orlando, Florida, Jacksonville, Mississippi, Jacksonville, Florida as well, places in Georgia. We have temperatures, freeze watches are in effect for some of those locations. When you go off into the southern Appalachian Mountains right now, there are cities which have an ice storm warning in effect for those areas. So we have dangerous situations over there. We also have intense heat over in the Texas area. Temperatures in the 90s. That's especially yesterday and today. That front will eventually move through, cooling things off. But for today in Louisiana, we see unseasonably warm temperatures, record heat expected over there for this afternoon. Moving on to the West Coast. The West Coast is just, the phenomenal stuff is just so expansive and so intense that it's almost like you don't even know where to begin, and it's a whole podcast in and of itself. We have Lake Tahoe, I think that's the name of it, out on the West Coast, which has frozen over for the first time since 1991. It became complete ice for the March 9th, I believe. It became complete ice for the first time since 1991. They are receiving, in California, they are receiving a very harsh winter this year, and that lake is a response to that. We also have a tropical storm which developed in the Indian Ocean. This is the longest duration tropical storm ever to exist. Its name is Freddie. That's the name of the storm, and it is making landfall for a third time as we speak. And right now it's making landfall over in African country. But this storm has had a very long duration and has made landfall again 3 times. And quite intense stuff happening over there. The National Weather Service has marked an end, finally, to the La Nina event. It is officially over. There is no La Nina event, and there is no El Nino event taking place either. We are in neutral territory right now, a rarity over the past few years to be in neutral territory. But we do have an El Nino, the opposite of a La Nina, that is expected to develop within 6 months. Forecasters say that the El Nino is the event that's going to bring the global warming really to the forefront. And once that takes off, we're going to be able to recognize global warming at a pace that we've never seen before. That's what the claim is, meaning that the La Nina which is a area of colder water temperatures in the Pacific, that was able to offset the increase in global temperatures. El Nino will not be able to offset it, so we might see more of global warming may manifest itself and express itself in a more intense way once this El Nino starts, if it does start. It's forecasted to start. Currently, right now, we're seeing the effects of a sudden stratosphere warming that took place in mid-February, and as was forecasted, 3 weeks to the date, the Arctic was expected to break loose, and that's exactly what's happening, and that's why the East Coast is seeing snow. The Northeast, we're still having tremendous difficulty getting the snow all the way to the coastal cities to see anything significant, but we have made progress. We have New York, which has received 1.8 inches of snow the other day and has brought their seasonal total past 2 inches. It sounds like a joke, but there has been progress made in the month of March, and we're expected to see some more progress later this week in regards to this upcoming snow that is on the way. We have a volcano. There's no end to this. A volcano that erupted in Indonesia, and we also have an earthquake. There's lots of stuff going on in the world right now, but for right now, we will bring our little weather synopsis here to an end. Hope everyone enjoys the snow enjoy the warm temperatures headed to the eastern portions of the Midwest Thursday. Cities such as St. Louis and Chicago will be under that south flow Thursday. Places to the west, cities to the west of that, could expect a warm-up to occur already by Wednesday, likely. And the big story is the cold temperatures taking over the southeastern portions of our country with freezing conditions over the next couple of days in the wake of this storm. You have been listening to the podcast Weather with Enthusiasm. You will now hear a 1-minute trailer.
Several additional feet of snow is expected by Monday morning.
We have a powerhouse typhoon which has developed off in the Pacific Ocean. A big shockaroo to many of you. This is especially true in regards to what's going to be going on in Alaska. We have parts of the world that are so hot right now. Temperatures are expected to go into the low 130s. Hey, we have a special guest on our show. What is your name?
Kitabis.
A heat wave that's going to be headed to the Eilat area. We're going to have to wait before we get into the next excitement. We're going from one extreme to the next extreme. 27.1 barometric pressure. Feet of snow are falling in Japan.
Oh my gosh.
Weather. That's a time of celebration. Just Google Weather with Enthusiasm and they're all going to come up.